What does it take to take that first leap into starting a business?
That's the hardest part. It really depends on your personal circumstances. Like I got fired. I was sleeping on the floor, 6 guys in a 3-bedroom apartment. So I couldn't go any lower. So there was no downside. Yeah, there was no downside for me starting a business. And it was just like, I was 25 when we started Micro Solutions. And, I just gotten fired. And it was like, look, I'm a lousy employee. I'm going to just start going to some of my prospects that I had in my job and asked them to front the money that I needed to install some software, and found this company, Architectural Lighting, who put up $500 for me. That allowed me to buy software and have 50% margins. And, that's how I started my company.
But like by way of advice, would you say? I mean, it's a terrifying thing.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be in a position where you're confident. I get emails and approached by people all the time, what kind of business should I start? That tells me you're not ready to start a business, right? Either you're prepared and you know it or you don't. In the United States, with the American dream, everybody kind of always looks at themselves and say, okay, I have this idea, right? And then you go through this process of saying, okay, you talk to your friends or family, what do you think? And then almost always, it's a great idea, right? Then you go on Google and you say, oh my God, no one else is doing it, without thinking, 10 companies have gone out of business trying the same thing. But okay, it's on Google. And then people stop, right? Because that next step means, okay, I have to change what I'm doing in my life. And that's not easy for 99% of the people. Some people look at that as an opportunity and get excited about it. Some people get terrified because it's, okay, maybe I'm comfortable, maybe I have responsibilities. And so whatever your circumstances are, if you want to take that next step, you have to be able to deal with the consequences of changing your circumstances. And that's the first thing. Do you save money? So you have, if you have a job, do you have a mortgage? Do you have a family? You got to save money. You can't just walk. They've got to eat and they've got to have shelter. But on the other side of the coin, if you've got nothing, it's the perfect time to start a business.
Yeah, desperation is a good catalyst for starting a business. But in many cases, the decision, as you're talking about, you're going to have to make is to leave a job that's providing some degree of comfort already. So and I suppose when you're sleeping on the floor and there's 6 guys, it's a little bit easier.
It's really easy, right? Particularly when you get fired and you don't have a job, and you're looking at bartending at night to try to pay the bills. And so it wasn't hard for me, but to your point, it really comes down to preparation. If it's important enough to you, you'll save the money. You'll give up, whatever it is you need to give up to put the money aside. If you have obligations, you'll put in the work to learn as much as you can about that industry so that when you start your business, you're prepared. And you can always, at night, on weekends, whenever you find time, lunch, start making the calls to find out if people will write you a check, or transfer you the money to buy whatever it is you're selling. And by doing those things, you can put yourself in a position to succeed. It's where people just think, okay, Geronimo, I'm leaping off the edge of a cliff and I'm starting a business. That's tough.
But sometimes that's like the way you do it, though.
There's always examples of any situation or scenario, right? But I mean,
anecdotal evidence for everything.
Yeah, but if you're going into a new business, you're going to have competition unless you're really, 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 really lucky. Yeah. And that competition is not going to just say, okay, let Lex or Mark just kick our ass.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be prepared to how you're going to deal with that competition.
Well, what do you think that is about America that has so many people who have that dream and act on that dream of starting a business?
I think we've just got a culture of consumption and more, and to get more, you've got to, creating a business gives you the greatest potential upside and the greatest leverage on your time. But it also creates the most risk.
So that capitalist machine, there's a lot of elements. By contrast, the respect for the law, like an entrepreneur can trust that if they pull it off, the law will protect them. There won't be a government.
Hopefully that's still the case, yeah.
Well, yeah. There's always...
us versus other countries.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So us versus other countries, like Joe Biden, of all people, said to me, it was at an entrepreneurship conference that when he was vice president, he had put together. And we had gone up there, from a bunch of us from Shark Tank, to talk to young entrepreneurs from around the world. And he said to me, Mark, the one thing that separates, I've been to every country around the world, and the one thing that separates us is entrepreneurship. We're the most entrepreneurial country in the world, and there's no one else who's even close. And when you look at the origin of our the biggest companies in the world, for the most part, there's an American origin story somewhere behind there. And I think, that just gets perpetuated on itself. We see those Horatio Alger stories. We see examples of the Jeff Bezos of the world, the Steve Jobs of the world. And those are the types of people we want to copy.
Yeah, we want to be really careful and try to really figure out what that is, because we don't want to lose that.
For sure.
We want to protect it, whatever, and that's a lot of the discussions about what's the right way to do government, big government, small government, what's the right policies, but also culture, like who we celebrate. One of the things that troubles me is that we don't enough celebrate the entrepreneurs that take risks and the entrepreneurs that succeed. It seems like success, especially when it comes with wealth, is immediately matched with distrust and criticism and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's changing for sure, because you can go back just 12 years, right? Traditional media dominated, let's just say through 2012. That was the peak of linear television. Newspapers weren't as strong, but they still had some breadth and depth to them. And then social media comes along, and everybody gets to play in their own sandbox and share opinions with people who think just like them. And it also gives them the opportunity to amplify those feelings. And I think that's where celebrating entrepreneurs really started to subside some. There were always people who were progressive that were like, billionaires are bad or millionaires are bad, depending on the time period. But you didn't really see it on an ongoing basis, right? It wasn't going to be on the evening news. It wasn't going to be in the front page of the newspaper. It was going to be if you read a book and someone talked about it, or you read a magazine and there was an article talking about, this progressive movement or that progressive movement, whatever it may be, or political parties. But now, all of that is front and center on social media.
Yeah, we're trying to figure it out, how we deal with the mobs of people and the virality of it all. I think we'll find our footing and start celebrating greatness again.
Well, that's the whole reason I do Shark Tank.
That's true. That show celebrates the entrepreneur. That's true.
It's the only place where every single minute of every single episode, we celebrate the American dream. And the reason I do it is we tell the entire country, and it's shown around the world even. We're amazing advertising for the American dream in I don't even know how many countries. But every time somebody walks onto that carpet from Dubuque, Iowa, or Ketchum, Idaho, that sends a message to every kid who's watching, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12-year-old kid, that if they can do it from Ketchum, Idaho, you can do it. If they can have this idea and get a deal, or even present to the Sharks and have all of America see it, you can do it. And I'm proud of that. 15 years of that is it's just been insane. Now kids walk up to me and go, yeah, I started watching you when I was 5 or 10 and I started a business because I learned about it from Shark Tank. And so, I think, we're being it celebrates it and we convey it, and I don't think it's going away, but there are different battles we have to fight to support it.
Yeah, I love even when the business idea is obviously horrible. Just the guts to step up.
To be there.
To believe in yourself. To really reach. That's what matters. Because some of the best business ideas are probably maybe even you and Shark Tank will laugh at.
Oh, for sure. Without question. The good ones, we're not going to recognize every good one. And then sometimes we'll just motivate people to work even harder to get it done because of what we say to them. And that's fine too. There's been great success stories that we said no to.